So let's talk a little bit about that. Where does this all come from? Well, as I said before, this is a 3,500-year-old technology that was hidden away. Why? Because of its power. Because it was realized very quickly that this has the power to create miracles and to change the world. And that's not something you should be able to do, you ordinary people. That's something that should only be held for, the highest initiates, the high priest. So how it all started, you probably know the story, but I'll recount it. There was, in Egypt, a time in which the Pharaoh decided that he was getting nervous about how many Israelite slaves he had. And so he ordered all male children under 5 to be killed. I mean, it's hard for us even to imagine such a thing. And there was a young boy who was in this group, and the mother didn't clearly want this, so she put him into a bushel basket and decided to trust divine providence, put him in the Nile. And I wonder if she knew that just a short distance away, members of the royal family were bathing and swimming. And so this little basket flowed to where they were, and one of the Pharaoh's daughters saw the baby, and because she had no child, decided this was a gift and took Moses as her own. And so Moses was raised to believe that he was a prince of Egypt and that he was a member of the royal family. And yet there was always something in him that felt a deep connection with these slaves that he saw every day. To the point that one day when he was out, he was amongst the slaves, he saw this Egyptian soldier terribly abusing this slave, and so he became enraged and he killed the soldier. And he knew that he was not immune to the law and that he was going to be punished. So to escape that, he left. He escaped into the wilderness where he lived for the next 40 years. He rediscovered who he was, joined the Israelites that were there in the desert, and 40 years later he was an old man. Now, we maybe he was 17 when this started, so let's say he's around 57. That doesn't seem that old to us, does it? Well, 3,500 years ago, very few people lived that long. So he was very old. And he was tending his sheep one day when he saw something that he didn't understand. I would say even more important, he felt something. What he saw was a bush that seemed to be on fire, and yet this fire would not consume the bush. And he felt a presence in this fire, a powerful presence. And he heard a voice. And the voice asked Moses to do something that seemed impossible. To go to the most powerful man in the world, his own uncle, and to demand that these Israelite slaves be released. Well, Moses, knowing how impossible this was, he asked God a question that had never been asked before. Up until that point, God was only known as a title, the God of Abraham, the God of our forefathers. But there's not much intimacy in the title. So Moses said, "Who shall I say sent me?" In other words, what is your name? And it's almost as if God smiled and said, "Tell them, I am that I am sent you." Or in Hebrew, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. I am. And Moses hears that and he feels the power within this name. I mean, this is a dramatic moment. As I said, there's no intimacy in a title, but when you know someone's name, by the way, this is just coming into my mind. Does anyone know what Pope Francis's name was before he took the name Francis? What was his first name? What was it? Jorge? Jorge? Okay. We'll stick with that. I don't know if it is, but it works. Imagine if you went to the Pope, okay? And you could call him a lot of things. It would be traditional to call him His Holiness. All right? That's a title. You might call him Pope Francis. Once again, it's a title and a name that he chose to go with that title. He chose that because of St. Francis. But what if you knew him from Buenos Aires. And you said, Jorge. Wouldn't there be an intimacy there that you wouldn't have if you called him His Holiness? So when God gives Moses this name, he feels the intimate power within it. And almost like minutes later, he falls back and he remembers what he's being asked to do. He remembers how impossible it is. And he says, hold on. Even Abraham and Isaac couldn't do what you're asking me to do. And then God said to him something amazing. He says, yes, but to Abraham and Isaac I did not give my name. So God is confirming there is power, there is energy, there is light within this name. If you can learn how to use this name, because it's not an ordinary name, it's not Bob or Sue, it indicates a reality. It indicates a truth. I am that I am. What we know is that Moses took that name and he used it to create miracles that ultimately led to the release of the Israelites. And so even as they journeyed through the desert, he would use the power of this name that he was given. But it wasn't much later that something changed. As I said before, the power and the reality of this name was so grand that it was decided that it should not be used. The name of God should not be spoken. Only by the high priest or certain people who were given that right. But to speak the name out loud in some conservative circles would mean you would have to die. That's how serious it was. And so it was hidden away. It was blocked because all of us, we shouldn't have access to such miraculous power. Do you believe that? Of course not. But that has been the reality for 3,500 years. And yet, every once in a while, someone would step forward and would challenge that rule. Chief among them was, guess who? A guy named Yeshua, or Jesus. You know, I've never counted how many times he says, I am, in the Gospels, but it's dozens and dozens and dozens. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the resurrection. I am the bread of life. He says it over and over again. There's even one point where he's there in the temple, and he's there by the wall, and he says, tear this temple down, and in 3 days I will rebuild it. And they say, well, even Moses couldn't do such a thing. And then Jesus says, before Moses was, I am. And what do? They picked up stones to kill him because he had not only said the name, he claimed it. When he said it, he meant it. I am that. Well, I'm going to fast forward 2,000 years to the day that I was thinking about this. I had just watched The Secret, and I was thinking about this whole law of attraction of the soul versus the ego, and for some reason I began meditating on that name, I am that I am. And I remember even as a kid hearing that name and thinking, I don't get it, it's just like a sentence. And it didn't really make sense to me. But as I was meditating, suddenly it was like, in my imagination, this lightning bolt comes out of the sky, and it crashes into the name. And then when everything cleared, I looked again, and it said, I am that, comma, I am. And I got it. It's a conversation. It's a conversation with God. It is ours not to say, I want, I hope, one day after I've done X, Y, and Z, after I've gone to enough conferences or events, whatever it may be, maybe one day, then I'll be ready, then I'll be holy. No, I am that right now. And when I say that, when I feel that, there's an answer. God will always answer you when you come with such reverence, and the answer is always, I am. God doesn't say, you are. I am that, you are. No, I am that, and God's answer is, I am. In other words, I am one with you in that experience. The I am current within you is the only thing that's real. Anything else is just a dream. All of the wanting you do, all the desiring you do for something outside of you, thinking that you're powerless, is just a dream that was never real. And the moment you realize, I am that, God will answer, I am. I remember when we were making the movie, The Moses Code, one of the people that I interviewed, a very good friend of mine, Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote the book Conversations with God, he told me a great story that if you've seen the movie, you'll remember about how he first got this. The story was many years before he became an author, he was at a workshop or a conference, probably much like this one, and they were getting ready to take a lunch break, and so the teacher said, before you go out, I want you to know that you have an assignment. The assignment is to look around wherever you are, restaurants, in a park, wherever you may be, and to look at every person that you come in contact with, and to say and to feel, I am that. Whether it be a mother with her child, or a homeless person, or a businessman, I am that, and to feel that connection. And so Neil was meeting a friend who was going to go out to lunch, and so he's kind of trying to do this under his breath. He's walking around, I am that, I am that, I am that. And his friend finally asked what he was doing. And he explained what he was doing. He said, I'm supposed to look at everyone and say, I am that. And his friend said, but hold on, that's silly. I mean, that person is that person and you're you. And Neil said, no, I'm just doing what I'm asked to do, and I feel it, something's happening. She says, well, it doesn't really matter because, you're not them. And finally what Neil said, and he surprised himself, he said, I am that. I am. And within that, there was an insistence. That's what I realized later. He was insisting something. He was claiming something to her and to himself. I am that. I am. And I can tell you that this truly is the most powerful manifestation tool in the history of the world when it's applied from our soul. Okay? I could tell you story after story, and I'm not even going to, story after story of times in my life when I've seen miraculous things happen, or in these global meditations when there didn't seem to be any possibility of a ceasefire or a peace accord being signed, and yet after millions of people are stopping to send their light and their energy and their I amness into that situation, miracles would happen. So many stories. The point is, you know this to be true, because you feel it. Even, I'm sure, you all appear to be high initiates. You've probably heard this many times before, and you're feeling it as I'm sharing it. But even if it's the first time that you're hearing it, there's something inside you that is jumping for joy right now. Because it's recognizing what you're hearing as the truth, the only truth. And when you learn how to dance with this truth, which is what we're going to talk about now, not only does your life change, but the world changes. But we're going to take a little segue here, because one of the things I love about having the music is that I can always sense when it's like the information gets to a certain level, then we need to just take a deep breath and allow something else, music, a prayer, to come through, which helps us to fall back, and then we're ready again. So I want to share a prayer. Well, I guess they're all prayers, but this is a song that I wrote actually. I walked the Camino de Santiago a number of years ago. And there's a feeling of gratitude when you arrive in Santiago. Has anyone here ever walked the Camino? Wow. A few. Okay. You've walked the Camino? Anybody else? In the back? Beautiful. And when I arrived in Santiago, I was just so filled with love of the divine, so filled with love of God. And I wrote this song It's called everything. And the reason I like it not only is because it expresses my love of the divine, but it really is about giving everything. And that's going to be something we're going to talk about. You have to give it all. There's no halfway with this. The magic of the name of God is released within you when you are 100%, when it's the only thing you want. So everything. We have to want and desire and give everything, which oddly enough is the name of this song. So here we go. So I want you to imagine that you're singing this song to the divine. Whatever your concept is of that, it doesn't matter. You're singing this to reality, to the force, to God. But I want you to feel that love, because the words are all about desire. As I said, you have to want this more than anything. It has to be a single desire. Your heart has to be on fire. And that's what this song's about. My heart's on fire with love for you. There's nothing more that I want to do but spend my life beholding you. That's all I want to do. I am at home within you. How could I leave and wonder how your precious light unfolds me now, and I will allow, 'cause you're everything to me. You are everything that I see. You are every breath that I'll breathe. Everything to me, everything to me. You are everything. Every breath I'll ever take, it leads me here where I'm wide awake. Oh, and I promise you that I won't forsake this vow I made. My heart's on fire with love for you. There's nothing more that I want to do but spend my life beholding you. with love for you. We've got about a half hour left, so I'm going to start moving kind of fast through some other information because there's something I want to share with you at the very end here that is all about that experience. But what I'll say for now, I mentioned that there's a dance. When you fully commit yourself to that I am presence within you, there is a dance that is going on between your conscious and your subconscious mind. It's important to know the role between these two. First of all, the conscious mind is often associated with the masculine quality, while the subconscious mind is associated with the feminine presence. And that's because the conscious mind is selective, but the feminine mind receives whatever the conscious mind has directed toward it, non-selective. So the conscious mind decides what it wants to experience. It could be something very great, something beneficial, or something detrimental. It doesn't matter. And it feeds that like a lover to the subconscious. The subconscious receives that, has no judgment about it. In fact, it doesn't know the difference between right or wrong or good and bad. It just receives completely whatever the conscious mind is giving to it. It also doesn't know any difference between the past or the future. It knows only the present moment. So you may be thinking something was in the past, some terrible tragedy, but it's receiving it as if it's happening right now. The third thing that it doesn't know anything about is the difference between me and anyone else. If I judge someone, either good or bad, it directs that judgment back on me. Okay? It receives that which I give. So giving and receiving literally are the same thing. Now, this dance that moves between the conscious and the unconscious or the subconscious mind is very important as long as we understand that there are three keys to working with this energy. Okay? So I want to give you what these keys are now, and they're going to apply when we do a beautiful exercise in a few moments. So I'll just tell you what they are first. The first key to living within your I am presence is you have to be obsessed with it. Like I said before, you have to give everything. This is no half measure. If you really, really want what your soul desires, you have to give everything. You have to be obsessed. And how that shows up with me, meditation we're about to do in a few moments, I do many times during the day. Even if I'm walking in my neighborhood, I'll have this tone, which I'll explain to you in a moment, playing in my pocket, so I can just hear it in the background. I'm obsessed. You know what I'm obsessed with? I'm obsessed with being a source of soul abundance to thousands and thousands and thousands of people, because I know that the more I give this, the more I'm going to receive it. I'm not obsessed with making money or being famous. I'm obsessed with giving this gift, being the source of it. And I think about it all the time. I meditate with this all the time. That's how I am 100%. Okay? That's the first key. The second key is feeling. More particularly, the feeling of gratitude. This is perhaps the most important. Do you remember when I said to you that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the future or the past or the present? Everything is happening right now. So, when you are working with this technology, and you're manifesting something, the key is to feel the energy of gratitude as if it's happening right now. What you do is you imagine what would be happening if this were already true. In my case, I know this is true. I mean, this is, even when I try and say the words, one day this will be true, they can't come out, because I know, I've practiced with this so much, it is a reality for me. But when I focus on that idea, to be the source of I am or soul abundance for thousands and thousands of people around the world, I feel it. I feel the gratitude that is happening right now, not in the future. Because if you're thinking about it as one day, guess how the subconscious interprets it? That it's not happening now. It says, okay, you don't want it now, so I won't give it to you now. But when you feel gratitude, which is one of the most powerful emotions in the universe, when you feel that gratitude in advance, as if it's happening this very moment, guess what the unconscious does? It brings it into this moment. It begins arranging things. That's why this is like magic. It begins arranging things that you would never imagine, that you would have never thought you had any control over, and things suddenly just start to fall into place. Okay? So that's the second key, feeling. So we have obsession. This may be a better word for that, but I like that word. What was that? Passion is a good one, yes. And the second is the feeling, especially the feeling of gratitude, to feel it in advance. Now, the third is also very important. The third, if you want to be manifesting from the level of soul rather than ego, you have to be focused on the benefit of others. This is not about me having a bigger house. This is not about me having a nicer car. I'm imagining this car, and I'm doing my vision board, all the things that they say in The Secret. And here's the thing, even if it works, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Because that longing that you felt in the first place, each one of us as human beings, we have this longing that we feel inside. And this longing is like, if we're living from the ego, we associate it with, it'll go away if I have this or that. So I want to focus on this car, and I do all the things that they say in The Secret, and it works. Suddenly now the car is in my driveway. It's brand new, and it has that new car smell. But guess what? Just like the new car smell, it goes away, and that yearning comes back, because it wasn't about a car. It was about so much more. It was about you being of benefit to others. So if you want to work from the level of soul rather than the level of ego, those are the three keys. Once again, you have to be passionate and obsessed. You have to think about this all the time. Use the meditation, whatever you need to do, so that it's always in your consciousness. And when it is in your consciousness, when you meditate with this, to feel the energy of it happening right now in this moment, not in the future. It's happening now, and to feel gratitude for that. And finally, that it be of benefit to others. Now, before we go into the meditation, I want to share something really incredible. So when I was working on the book, The Moses Code, I went to a dear friend of mine, who many of you may know, named Jonathan Goldman. Jonathan is a sound healer, an amazing sound healer, and he was also raised Jewish. And so I thought he would be a good person to ask about this name, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. And I asked Jonathan if there were any tones or frequencies associated with the name. And he said that, to his knowledge, he had never heard of this, so he was going to go home and just do some homework. But what Jonathan did, he began to consult an ancient form of numerology called gematria. Gematria is numerology from the Kabbalah, which is the mystical form of Judaism. And in gematria, every Hebrew letter has an associated number. And when a Kabbalist looks at the hidden meaning of a particular word, they take all the numbers from those letters and add them up, and then whatever that number is, they go back to this encyclopedia, and let's say the number is 820. Well, what does the word 820 mean mystically? So what he did first was he did the gematria for Ehyeh, or I am. And the number was 21. Now, when you convert 21 into hertz for the human ear, 21 is barely high enough for the human ear. The lowest frequency that the human ear can hear is 20 hertz. So that's not a good one for the human ear. But then when he did Asher, I think I have it in the right order. It might be reversed. But when he did Asher, I think the number was 501. Okay? And that's actually a very good frequency for the human ear. It's right there in the middle zone. Well, what he did, Jonathan followed his own guidance, and he took that first one, 21, and he said, I'm going to add it into itself until it comes within the same octave range as that 501. So 21 plus 21 is 42, 42 plus 42, and he kept coming and doing this until it came to the number 674, I think. And when he came to that number, now they're both in the same octave range, but the possibility that these two tones are going to sound resonant instead of dissonant was very remote. They're just two frequencies. So he had tuning forks made to these two frequencies, one for the 674, the other one for the 501. I remember when he called me up after he received these tuning forks, and he was like a little boy, who had just gotten this amazing gift. And I was the same, because he said, when I played these tuning forks, it was like listening to the angels, because he realized that what he was hearing was literally the sound of the name of God. And he played it for me, and it immediately just took me. It took me into this amazing experience. And we began working with these tuning forks. Oh, and by the way, I mentioned to you that he changed the numbers, and so when you add all those numbers back together, it's going to mean something different when you go back to the Kabbalistic encyclopedia. They just kept getting deeper and deeper. So he went back, he took the new number, referred back to this encyclopedia, and there were two meanings for this new number. The first was, it was another of the most sacred names of God, Yahweh Elohim. And the second was, it means to receive illumination. Now, no one had ever come up with these frequencies before. Jonathan had just followed his intuition. I then took those tones and I put them into a meditation, which we put out through the Moses Code Frequency CD. And a lot of people enjoyed it a lot, but there was one person who in particular enjoyed it the most, I would say, and that was Wayne Dyer. Wayne would listen to that 2 times a day. He had all of his kids listening to it. Every time he'd give a talk, he would talk about it, people would buy it, until finally they said, Reed Tracy at Hay House called me up and said, Wayne has a new book coming out called Wishes Fulfilled. We want to do a meditation CD and wanted to know how you felt about just rebranding what you did with that frequency meditation and put it out with Wayne. Okay. Sounded like a good idea to me. Well, hundreds of thousands of people. I get emails every day from people talking about the power and the transformation that they have felt through this meditation. But today I'm going to do something different for you, because I've been working with this in a different way. Now that I've been working on the soul of attraction, I decided to strip away all the meditation music that went with it and to strip it right back down to those tuning forks. Okay? So what we're going to do, I'm keeping my eye on the clock here so we don't go too far over. What we're going to do is we're going to be listening to this meditation for about 10 minutes. But I want you to do something with me, and I'll be guiding you into this in the beginning. We're going to share a focus, and that focus is, as I said before, for each one of you to be a source of soul abundance for thousands of people. Close your eyes for a moment. Once again, for you to be the source of soul abundance for thousands of people. What does that feel like? I want you to imagine maybe a situation where that might be true. What does it feel like to know that there are hundreds and thousands of people that have received some inspiration from you, and that it's resulting for an explosion of soul abundance? What I mean is abundance on every level: financial, emotional, physical. Soul abundance. What does that feel like? Do you feel gratitude? Do you feel joy? I want you to feel it as if it's happening right now. Because it is. This meditation collapses time. It brings this into the present moment. So feel the gratitude that it is happening right now. You are the source of soul abundance for thousands of people on every level. Feel